Imagine being booked to play the biggest show of your career, only to fly across the country, get stuck at the airport, and miss the performance entirely. This is the story of Iron Butterfly. It's true, Iron Butterfly was booked to play at Woodstock in 1969. They flew to New York's LaGuardia Airport, they got stuck there, and couldn't find transportation to get upstate where the festival was being held. Their manager contacted one of the booking agents at the festival. The band's manager asked for a private helicopter to be sent to LaGuardia to escort them to the festival grounds. Woodstock's production coordinator was not so into the idea. He sent them a telegram. Let me read it to you. The telegram was sent in 7 different lines. Check this out. For reasons I can't go into, until you are here, clarifying your situation, knowing you are having problems, you will have to find other transportation unless you plan not to come. Go back and see if you can find a pattern with the first letter of each of those telegrams. Ouch. So they missed the show. They missed Woodstock. Can you imagine? That's the kind of gig that sets your name in stone as one of the great rock artists of all time. Carlos Santana, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Jimi Hendrix, among many others. But that doesn't mean that their career was all failure. They had a huge hit with their album In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. You may have heard that the original title of the song, and thus the album, was In the Garden of Eden. But Doug Ingle, the singer and keyboard player, drank an entire gallon of wine and couldn't quite get the words out of his mouth, so he muttered something like, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, and it stuck. Let's talk about the keyboard sounds of Iron Butterfly. The primary organ sound we hear in Iron Butterfly's music is the Vox Continental. Now, instantly, this brings you back to the 1960s. This is one of the quintessential 1960s flower power sounds, right? Now, I'm of the opinion that if an organ isn't paired with a Leslie speaker, it just sounds like grandma's organ. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't sound as cool. It sounds a bit sterile. I guess that's kind of cool. It's just not exactly my cup of tea. Let's add the vibrato and see how that changes the sound. That's pretty subtle. I'm going to turn it up a bit. And once more. That's a sound that, in my opinion, it just didn't quite escape the decade. It brings to mind the Doors, the Monkees, and of course Iron Butterfly. But other than that, it's not really a sound that has made its way into other styles of music and other eras. Let's see what happens if we pair that Vox Continental sound with a Leslie simulator. I'll kill the vibrato. I would say it's much better already. I really like the saturation that the Leslie adds. I can actually turn up the distortion a bit here. That can sound pretty mean. It's not bad, but that's not really a pairing that you hear in music very often. In fact, I don't think it's possible to connect a Leslie speaker to a Vox Continental, at least not traditionally. I was actually wrong here. It is possible to connect a Vox Continental to a Leslie speaker, although the sound of the Vox that we typically think of is not paired with the Leslie. It's really the Hammond and Leslie that go together, like ham and eggs. Let's switch to my personal favorite, the Hammond organ. Here's the sound of a Hammond without a Leslie. It's a bit more mellow. But still, it kind of sounds sterile to me. I just don't think it has a place in rock music. Once you add that Leslie, it's a whole new world. Check this out. You're also going to notice that I'm doing a lot of these little 60s cliches. So one of them that you hear in Iron Butterfly's music a lot is moving from the 1 chord to the 2 chord. Now this is in a minor key. To the 3, back down. But it's really not straight up E minor. This is E Dorian, which you hear all over music from the 1960s. So I'm playing E minor 7, followed by F sharp minor 7. So that note right there, this C sharp, is raised 1/2 step from what it would be in E minor. And it brightens the sound. Anytime you raise or lower a pitch in a scale, you can think of it as making it 1 shade brighter or darker. So this E Dorian sound is 1 shade brighter than minor, and it's just really pleasant. Now, I have to spend at least some time talking about bass player Lee Dorman. There were a lot of members who came and went over the years, but Lee Dorman was the player on In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida and is really considered the primary bass player. He was the bass player in the classic lineup, it's so called. I think of that bass line there as sort of a 60s cliche. It actually brings to mind Spinal Tap.
Listen to the flower people.
Listen to what the flower people say.
Listen to what the flower people say. I wouldn't be surprised if that scene was heavily inspired from Iron Butterfly, because they're such a hippie flower power band. So something I love about Lee Dorman is that a lot of his bass lines are focused on the root, octave, minor 7th, 5th, and 4th. I just love that sound. I also notice how he tends to avoid the 3rd when he's playing his fills and bass lines. It does something in defining his sound. Those notes that he focuses on, the root, the minor 7th, the 5th, and the 4th, those are really the most neutral tones in any key. The 5th and 4th in particular, because those are found in both the major and minor scales. Those don't change. Even the minor 7th, yes, it's in the minor scale, but it's also in the Dorian mode and the Mixolydian mode. So it doesn't add too much darkness to the sound. I think overall, by focusing on these notes, this gives Lee Dorman's bass lines a kind of bright and fun feeling. And you'll hear those kind of playful bass lines all over the record. Over the years, there was a lot of tension in the band about the direction of their sound. They were kind of torn between 2 different waves. There was the 1960s hippie flower power thing, and then there was this really heavy rock wave that was coming that would define the 70s. So they were torn between, do we stick to this kind of lighter flower pop sound, or do we embrace the powerful lead guitars, the screaming distortion, the heavy drums? Part of what makes this record so beautiful is that you can hear the tension between those 2 forces. This band was loud. You can tell from live recordings. They were a loud rock band, and yet there was this lightness to their sound. Without even realizing it, I just kind of pointed out the balance that is in their band name, Iron Butterfly. Very similar to Led Zeppelin, where you have something that's very heavy and strong and something that's light and beautiful. While there are some aspects to this album that really haven't aged too well, in my opinion, they're kind of stuck in the 60s. There are some real gems. My personal favorite is called Are You Happy? And this is the track right before the epic 17-minute version of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. I took some liberties in the version that I made of this song, particularly with an F7 chord in the chorus. I did a bit of a tritone sub, so The chorus is in E minor, followed by a D sharp diminished. You can think of that D sharp diminished chord as being another version of B7, the 5 chord. Okay, notice the similarity between these 3 chords. You could say that they all share the same function, meaning each of these 3 chords could resolve to E minor in this song. They have D sharp and A, most importantly, in common. Here's the 5 chord, resolving to 1. That D sharp diminished is essentially B7 without the root. So I decided to put in a little bit of a tritone substitution. So instead of B7 or D sharp diminished, I put in F7. I also made a small adjustment in the melody, which I know is kind of against the rules, but I did it.
Ouch!
Because I wanted to accommodate that chord change. Here's the melody. I changed the harmony too. I did both the 4th and the 3rd there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this cover of Iron Butterfly's Are You Happy? Cheers.
Met a pretty girl on a day last night. Let me tell you now, she was groovy. Oh, I kissed the pretty girl and I held her tight. Let me tell you now, she was groovy. And now, no matter what I try to do, my mind's drifting back to you. Are you happy? No matter what I try to do, my mind's drifting back to you. Are you happy? To you? Are you happy? Girl, I love you.